This is Max and Mia Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Max and Mia Podcast. And hey, if this is your first time here, glad you found us.
That's right. As always, we're happy to have you here. Whether you're listening on your commute, at the gym, or just sitting at home with a cup of coffee. We appreciate you giving us some of your time.
And if you're enjoying what we do, the best way to support the show is actually pretty simple. Hit that like button, leave a comment if something resonates with you, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.
It genuinely makes a difference. Every single one counts.
All right. So, in today's episode, we're going to take things up a notch.
Exactly. We'll be listening to some real intermediate level conversations, the kind of English you'd actually hear between people, and then we'll break them down together. What's being said, how it's being said, and why it works.
Because one of the biggest challenges at this level isn't grammar anymore. It's expression. It's sounding natural, not like you're reading off a script.
So if you've ever felt like your English is technically correct, but somehow still sounds a bit robotic, this one's for you.
Let's get into it.
So, where do we start? We thought about this for a bit, and honestly, Anecdotes felt like the right call.
Yeah, and here's why. Telling a story sounds easy, right? You lived it. You know what happened. But the moment you try to tell it in another language, things get a little tricky.
Exactly. Because it's not just about the words. It's about keeping people interested, making them feel like they're right there with you. Whether it's something funny, something embarrassing, or something that genuinely scared you.
And to do that well, you need more than just vocabulary. You need to know how to frame a story, how to set it up, build it, and land it.
So before we jump into our first audio of the day, let's look at a few words and phrases that come up a lot in this kind of situation. And more importantly, let's talk about how to use them without sounding like a textbook.
All right, first one, and this is a big one. A lot of people, when they're setting up a story, say, "It happened," and that's fine. But if you want to sound a bit more natural, you've got options. You could say, "It all started when..." That one has a nice storytelling feel to it. Or even "out of nowhere," if something happened suddenly and unexpectedly. That phrase alone sets the tone right away.
Good one. Okay, second, reactions. When something goes wrong in a story, people often just say, "I was scared," or "I was nervous," which works, but you can do better. Try "my heart sank." That's when something hits you and you just feel that drop in your chest. Or "I froze." Short, simple, and everyone knows exactly what that feels like.
Those two are really visual. The listener can picture it without you having to explain much.
Right, and the third one, wrapping up a story. People tend to say, "and then it ended," or "so that was it." A little flat, honestly. Instead, you could go with, "and that was the moment I realized." Great for stories with a lesson or a twist. Or if it's more casual, looking back, it's actually kind of funny. That one works especially well for embarrassing stories.
That last one is gold for anyone who wants to tell a story and laugh at themselves a little. Which, by the way, is one of the most relatable things you can do.
All right. With that in mind, let's hear our first conversation of the day.
This is audio number 1.
Hey, you look a little off today. Everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just still kind of processing something that happened yesterday. It was so awkward, I don't even know where to start.
Oh, no. What happened?
Okay, so it all started when I decided to go to that new cafe on 5th. You know the one? The one everyone's been talking about?
Yeah, the one with the brick walls and the plants everywhere?
Exactly, that one. So I get there, and it's pretty busy, right? I find a seat, I order my coffee, and I'm just sitting there on my phone, minding my own business. And then, I don't know, I just had this feeling that someone was looking at me. So I look up, and there's this guy a couple of tables over, kind of smiling in my direction.
Okay.
So I smile back, right? Because I didn't want to be rude. And then he gets up and he walks over to my table, and I'm like, okay, here we go. He sits down, without asking, by the way, and he goes, I knew it was you. How long has it been?
Wait, did you know him?
That's the thing. I had no idea who he was. None. And he's talking to me like we're old friends, like we have all this history. And I froze. I couldn't say anything. I was just sitting there, nodding, going, yeah, totally. Completely lost.
Oh no, Claudia.
It gets worse. So he's going on and on, something about a trip and some people I apparently know, and I'm just playing along at this point. And then out of nowhere, he pulls out his phone and goes, I have to show you this photo from when we were in Barcelona.
Barcelona? You've never been to Barcelona?
I know. And that was the moment I realized I had two options: keep going and dig myself deeper, or just come clean. So I kind of took a breath and I said, I'm really sorry, but I think you might have me confused with someone else.
Oh, wow. What did he do?
He just stared at me, like completely blank. And then he goes, and I swear this is word for word, you're not Laura?
He thought you were someone named Laura?
The whole time. And I could feel my face going completely red. And I'm pretty sure the people at the next table had been listening because I heard someone trying not to laugh.
Okay, but honestly, that could happen to anyone.
Yeah, I know. And honestly, looking back, it's actually kind of funny. I mean, I spent like 10 minutes pretending to remember a trip I never took.
Did he at least apologize?
He did, yeah. He was actually really nice about it. He bought me a coffee to make up for the interruption, so I guess it wasn't a total disaster.
See? Happy ending.
I mean, sure, if you ignore the fact that I just sat there lying to a stranger for 10 minutes.
Okay, I love that one. Because the situation itself is something a lot of people can relate to. That moment where you're already too far in to turn back, and you just keep going.
Right. And what's interesting is how Claudia actually handles the tension. She doesn't just say, I was uncomfortable. She shows it, I froze. The nodding, the, yeah, totally. You feel her panic without her ever labeling it.
That's actually a really important storytelling move. Instead of telling the listener how you felt, you describe what you did. It's much more engaging.
The other thing worth noting is how Patrick's reactions drive the conversation forward. He's not just listening, he's reacting, asking short questions, laughing at the right moments. That back and forth is what makes a story feel alive.
And those phrases we mentioned earlier, they didn't feel forced at all. Phrases like, it all started when, or out of nowhere, and that was the moment I realized. They showed up naturally because the story actually called for them.
Which is exactly the point. You don't drop a phrase in just to use it. You build the situation where that phrase is the most natural thing to say.
All right. One thing we want to mention before we move on. If you really want to internalize this kind of natural English, one of the best things you can do is shadowing. Basically, listening and repeating at the same time, matching the rhythm, the pauses, the intonation.
And to make that easier, we've put together a full transcript of today's episode, completely free, and you'll find it linked in the description. So if you're watching this with subtitles, great. But if you want to take it a step further, grab the PDF and work through it.
We've also left a video in the description for anyone who wants to work specifically on their speaking. Worth checking out if that's something you're looking to improve.
Okay, moving on.
So, new scenario, and honestly, a very relatable one.
We've all been there at some point. Something goes wrong with your account, you try to sort it out, and suddenly you're stuck in a loop. On hold, being transferred, repeating yourself for the third time to someone who clearly hasn't read your file.
It's frustrating. And what makes it even harder in a second language is that in these situations, you need to be clear. You need to be firm. You can't afford to be vague when you're trying to get something fixed.
So, before we hear the conversation, let's go over a couple of phrases that'll actually help you sound more precise and more confident in this kind of situation.
First one, instead of just saying, I have a problem, which, let's be honest, doesn't tell anyone anything, try, I'd like to report an issue with my account. It's more specific, and it signals right away that you're there for a reason.
Or if you've already contacted them before and nothing happened, you could say, "This has already been brought to your attention." This is a great way to make that clear without sounding aggressive.
Second, when you want to push for a solution without losing your composure, instead of just fix this or I want my money back, you can say, I'd like this to be resolved as soon as possible. Or, could you tell me what the next steps are? That last one is particularly useful because it puts the responsibility back on them.
And the third one, this is for when things aren't going your way and you need to escalate. Instead of raising your voice or saying, "Let me speak to your boss," try, "I'd like to speak with the supervisor, please." Same message, but it keeps you in control of the situation.
That one matters more than people think. The moment you stay calm while the situation is tense, you actually come across as more credible.
All right. With that, let's hear audio number 2. This time we're following a customer who's having a pretty rough day at the bank.
Thank you for calling Riverside Bank. My name is Derek. How can I help you today?
Hi, yes, I'd like to report an issue with my account. I just checked my statement online, and there are 3 charges on my credit card that I did not make. I have no idea where they came from.
I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. Let me pull up your account. Can I get your full name and the last 4 digits of your card?
Sure. Amber Collier, card ending in 7742.
Perfect. Thank you. Give me just a moment. Okay, I can see your account here. I'm looking at the transactions. It looks like there are 2 purchases from an online retailer and 1 from a subscription service. These were processed over the last 4 days.
Right, and none of those are mine. I've never heard of any of those. I need to know how this happened and what you're going to do about it.
Of course, I understand your concern. I do want to ask, is it possible that someone you know may have had access to your card details? Or perhaps you may have entered your information on a website recently that could have been, less than secure?
Excuse me? No, I'm very careful about where I use my card online. I don't click on random links. I don't share my information with anyone. I've had this card for 3 years, and nothing like this has ever happened.
I understand, ma'am. I'm not suggesting it was your fault. I'm just required to go through a few standard questions as part of the process.
Okay, well, the answer is no to all of them. What I'd like to know is what steps you're going to take to fix this, because this has nothing to do with anything I did.
Absolutely. So what I can do from my end is flag those transactions and open a dispute on your behalf. The investigation process typically takes between 7 to 10 business days, and during that time...
Wait. 7 to 10 business days, so I just wait? Those charges are sitting there and I'm supposed to wait almost 2 weeks?
I do understand that's frustrating. The funds won't be permanently deducted if the dispute is resolved in your favor. But yes, the review process does take some time. It's standard procedure.
That's not really good enough, Derek. Could you tell me what the next steps are beyond just filing the dispute? Is there anything else being done on your end to find out how this happened?
Well, our fraud team will review the transactions and look into the origin of the charges. Beyond that, I'm not able to give you specifics on the investigation process itself.
Right, okay. I'd also like you to block my card immediately and make sure no further movements go through. I don't want a single transaction processed until this is sorted out.
Absolutely. I can take care of that right now. Can you just hold the line for a moment while I get that processed on my end?
Fine.
Thank you for your patience, Miss Collier. I've gone ahead and...
You know what? I'm going to stop you there. I appreciate you trying to help, but honestly, I think it'll be better if I go into a branch directly. I'd like to speak with a supervisor in person and get a clearer picture of what's actually being done here.
Of course, that's completely your right. The nearest branch to your registered address would be...
I know where it is, thank you. Just make sure that card is fully blocked before I hang up.
It's already been processed. Your card has been blocked, and no further transactions will be authorized.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, so Amber. She handled that really well, considering how frustrating that situation is.
What I thought was interesting is how Derek's questions were framed. He never directly said, "It's your fault," but the implication was there. Did you click on something? Did you share your information? That kind of language puts the customer on the defensive without the bank having to take any responsibility.
And Amber caught it immediately. She didn't let it slide. But notice, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't get personal. She just shut it down and redirected. The answer is no to all of them. What are you going to do about it? That's a really effective move.
Right. And then there's the 7 to 10 business days moment, which, let's be honest, is one of the most unsatisfying things you can hear when you're in that situation. Amber pushed back on it, but Derek had nothing more concrete to offer. That's when you know the conversation has hit a ceiling.
Which is exactly why she made the call to go in person. It wasn't an emotional decision, it was a strategic one. She realized she wasn't going to get further on that call, so she cut it off and escalated on her own terms.
And she still made sure everything she needed was confirmed before hanging up. The card blocked, no further transactions. She didn't just storm off. She wrapped it up properly.
That composure is actually one of the hardest things to maintain in a second language, because when you're frustrated, you tend to fall back on simpler, more blunt expressions. Staying controlled and precise takes real effort.
Something worth keeping in mind next time you're in a situation like that.
All right, last conversation of the day. And this one, I think a lot of people are going to feel very seen.
Yeah, we've all been there. You made plans, maybe a few days ago, maybe even a week ago, and now the day is here and you just don't want to go. Or something came up. Or honestly, you have better plans and you don't want to admit that.
The challenge is that canceling without sounding rude, flaky, or completely indifferent to the other person is actually harder than it sounds, especially in English, where tone carries a lot of weight.
So, before we get into the conversation, let's look at a couple of phrases that can help you cancel gracefully, without burning any bridges. First one, a lot of people just say, "I can't make it," and leave it at that, which is fine, but it can come across as a bit cold depending on the context. A warmer version would be, "I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to make it after all." The I'm afraid softens it, and after all, acknowledges that plans were already in place. It shows you're aware of the inconvenience.
Second, if you want to leave the door open without making a promise you're not sure you can keep, instead of maybe next time, which honestly sounds like a brush off, try let's find another time that works for both of us. It's a small shift, but it sounds a lot more genuine.
And third, for when you want to apologize without going overboard. People sometimes over-apologize when they cancel, which can actually make things more awkward. Instead of, I'm so sorry, I feel terrible, try, I really appreciate your understanding. It acknowledges the situation, thanks the other person, and closes it cleanly.
That last one is especially useful because it moves the conversation forward instead of dwelling on the cancellation itself.
All right, so in our final audio of the day, we're going to hear two friends dealing with exactly this situation. One of them is trying to back out of plans, and the other one, well, let's just say they're not making it easy.
This is audio number 3.
Hey, so I actually wanted to talk to you about tonight.
Oh yeah? What's up?
So, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to make it after all. I know, bad timing.
Wait, seriously? Reese, we made these plans like 2 weeks ago.
I know, and I feel bad about it. I do. It's just, things kind of piled up today, and I'm running on empty at this point. I wouldn't cancel if I didn't have to.
Is everything okay? Did something happen?
No, nothing like that. It's more just, it's been one of those weeks, you know? I had back-to-back stuff all day. I haven't eaten a proper meal since this morning. And honestly, I don't think I'd be great company right now.
I mean, I get it, but this is like the 3rd time in a row. And I already told everyone you were coming.
Wait, everyone? I thought it was just going to be the two of us.
No, I mentioned it to a few people and they wanted to join. So now there's like 5 of us going. So it's a little awkward if you just don't show up.
Okay, I didn't know that, to be honest. You probably should have mentioned it before. But look, I really appreciate your understanding on this. Tonight's not gonna work for me.
So what am I supposed to tell them?
I mean, just say something came up. You don't have to go into detail. And hey, let's find another time that works for both of us. Just us, like we originally planned. We can actually catch up properly instead of being in a group the whole night.
I guess. I just feel like every time we make plans, something always comes up on your end.
That's fair. And I'm not going to sit here and make a bunch of excuses because you're right. It's happened more than once. But tonight, I genuinely don't have it in me. I wouldn't be any fun to be around.
Okay, fine. But you're planning the next one.
Deal. I'll figure something out this week and send you a couple of options.
And don't just send me a text 3 days from now saying you're busy.
I won't, I promise. And hey, have a good time tonight, seriously. Take a picture of whatever you end up eating so I can feel appropriately bad about missing it.
Oh, I absolutely will. Something expensive.
Yeah, that tracks. Okay, have fun. We'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah, take care of yourself.
Will do. Thanks for understanding, really.
Okay, that one had a little more tension than I expected.
Right. Because it wasn't just a simple, hey, I can't make it. There was actual history there. The pattern of canceling, the group that showed up out of nowhere. Reese had to navigate all of that while still holding his ground.
And what I think worked really well is that she didn't over-explain. That's something a lot of people do when they're canceling. They pile on reasons, they keep apologizing, and it ends up sounding less believable.
She also did something smart when Frankie pointed out the pattern. Instead of getting defensive, she just acknowledged it. That's fair. 2 words. And it completely changed the tone of the conversation.
That's actually a really underrated move in English. Admitting when someone has a point without making a big deal out of it. tends to de-escalate things faster than any explanation would.
The other thing worth noticing is the ending. They didn't leave it unresolved. Reese committed to something specific, sending options during the week, and Frankie held him to it. That kind of closure matters, especially when there's already some tension around reliability.
And the humor at the end helped a lot, too. The bit about the expensive meal, it lightened things up without dismissing what Frankie was feeling. That balance is hard to pull off, and it's something worth paying attention to.
All right, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. 3 conversations, 3 very different situations, and hopefully a few phrases you'll actually remember the next time you need them.
If you made it this far genuinely, thank you. It means a lot that you spend part of your day with us. We know there's a lot out there to listen to, so the fact that you chose this, we don't take that lightly.
And remember, the full transcript of today's episode is available for free in the description. If you want to go back, review the conversations, or practice with shadowing, it's all there.
If today's episode was useful to you, the best thing you can do is share it with someone who's also working on their English. That's honestly how we grow, and it helps more people find what we're doing here.
We'll be back with a new episode soon. Until then, keep listening, keep practicing, and don't be too hard on yourself. Progress takes time, but it adds up.
Take care, everyone.
See you next time!